Story 1: Behind the Mask. I never imagined I'd be sharing this, but I feel the need to open up about it. My world has been completely shaken, and I'm unsure where else to seek guidance and support. Here's the story of how my wife had an affair with a wealthy investor and tried to justify it by claiming it was part of her personal finance learning journey. Let me begin from the start. My wife, Emily, 36, and I, John, 39, have been together for 7 years and married for 5. We've had our fair share of ups and downs like any couple, but I believed our relationship was built on a strong foundation of trust and love. We both had regular jobs, and while we weren't wealthy, we were content and happy. About a year ago, Emily's interest in personal finance, let's call it a passion, took an unusual turn. She started reading books, watching YouTube videos, and even attending seminars on the subject. I was supportive of her newfound interest and believed it was a positive step toward improving our financial well-being and securing a better future for us. I have very little knowledge about finance, aside from basic investments like mutual funds. I come from a marketing background with minimal exposure to finance, and for tax-related matters, I rely on tax consultants. Emily, however, developed an interest in learning about the stock market and cryptocurrency. As time went on, Emily began spending an increasing amount of time with a wealthy investor she had met at one of these seminars, whom we'll refer to as Lucas. She described Lucas as a mentor who was guiding her through the intricacies of investing and wealth accumulation. Emily eventually ceased her contributions to our household expenses, asserting that she was investing in our future and I shouldn't complain about it. I took her at her word and continued to manage all our household bills on my own. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but as time passed, their relationship began raising significant concerns. Emily started devoting an excessive amount of time to Lucas, often late into the night. Her explanation was that due to her day job, evenings were the only time available for pursuing her passion. When I expressed my disapproval, she became defensive and demeaned me for my limited understanding of investments. She taunted me, stating that one day she would make us wealthy and I'd regret not supporting her. I was providing her with support in every way I could. She wanted me to refrain from questioning her whereabouts, her return times, or her activities. I tried to avoid interfering as much as possible, but when she displayed obvious red flags, I had to stay vigilant. Emily also began changing her attire, opting for more provocative outfits, but I refrained from addressing the matter. I had never commented on her clothing choices before, so I maintained my silence this time too. However, she began neglecting our relationship, prompting me to address my concerns with her. As usual, she dismissed them, claiming that she was doing all of this for our future security, and I should be supportive rather than judgmental. Gradually, I grew distant from her because I was tired of carrying the relationship's burden on my own. I thought she would notice the change in my demeanor, but she remained preoccupied with learning the intricacies of investments, effectively forgetting about my existence. We became nothing more than housemates and seldom spoke unless it was absolutely necessary. Despite living under the same roof, we rarely spent time together. After her day job, she would head out to attend seminars or her mentorship class. One evening, I passed by the seminar hall where her supposed finance mentor Lucas conducted classes. I had a gut feeling to enter and investigate the seminar. Upon entering, I realized it was an entirely different event. I inquired with the security personnel about Lucas's company's seminars and their frequency. They informed me that such seminars were infrequent, with the last one taking place months ago. When I left the hall, I noticed several young men wearing t-shirts featuring the name of the finance influencer. I approached them and learned that they were promoting enrollment in the Finance Masterclass for everyone. I collected all the relevant information. The influencer himself conducted the seminars every 2 to 3 months, whereas the mentorship classes were led by mentors like Lucas in cafes. They also clarified that it was not a daily class, but a weekly one taking place from 7 to 9 p.m. Emily consistently returned home after midnight. I obtained the cafe's details and left. The following day, I asked Emily if she had the class that day. She replied, "Currently, I have classes every day." I didn't say anything. Based on the information I had gathered, the class only met on Saturdays, and that day was a Thursday. In the evening after finishing my work, I dropped by the cafe and witnessed her sitting intimately close to Lucas, with his hands on her waist and his lips on her cheek. They whispered into each other's ears, and my heart sank as I observed them exchanging flirtatious glances. I remained at a distance, allowing myself time to process what I was witnessing. I attempted to capture video clips because I anticipated that she might downplay the situation. I stayed there until they engaged in more intimate activities. He was playfully teasing her, even licking her ears and engaging in other inappropriate behavior. I recorded everything. When they were on the verge of kissing, I approached and took a seat at their table, sitting opposite them. Emily froze while Lucas appeared confused. I introduced myself as her soon-to-be ex-husband, and he chuckled. Emily offered to explain, and I encouraged her to do so. She claimed it was a one-on-one mentoring session, to which I sarcastically replied that he was certainly providing hands-on mentoring. Lucas left the table, laughing off the situation. His demeanor resembled that of a player. I directly asked Emily if she had slept with Lucas, and she admitted that they had, but she argued it was part of an investment deal. I couldn't comprehend what kind of deal that was. She tried to rationalize it by asserting that it was all related to her personal finance education. She stated that Lucas had assured her that she would earn significant money after completing the classes and fulfilling his requests. I questioned what he had asked of her, specifically if it involved sleeping with him. She responded with a yes. I sensed that she was attempting to save face, so I urged her to provide any random excuses instead. I played along for a while, inquiring if she had done it against her will. She clarified that it was consensual. I accused her of deriving pleasure from it, and she countered that she hadn't but had only done it to secure our future. I lost my temper and shouted at her, demanding to know who gave her the authority to secure our future. I informed her that she need not concern herself with mine, as I was perfectly capable of managing it. My outburst drew the attention of nearby patrons, causing them to stare at us. I stood up and left the cafe, and she followed me outside, attempting to grasp my arm. I shrugged her off and told her she could continue her involvement with her mentor, and was not welcome in my home. I returned home feeling devastated. My trust in her was utterly destroyed, and it was hard to accept that she had concealed her infidelity behind the guise of learning personal finance. A few minutes later, Emily returned. She asserted that her involvement with Lucas was not for pleasure, but rather a means to acquire financial knowledge. I asked her to leave the house, but she pleaded with me, insisting that it wasn't infidelity. She claimed there were no romantic feelings involved with Lucas, and it was simply a business transaction. I was baffled by the type of business she was engaged in. I informed her that there was no need to engage intimately with her mentor to learn about personal finance. She could gain financial knowledge without such actions. She grew angry and asserted that she would prove me wrong, entering a mode of wanting to demonstrate her earning potential. She declared her intent to venture into influencer marketing and criticized my lack of understanding regarding the significance of early-age investing. She predicted that I would retire with minimum savings, relying on state pension, while she would become a billionaire and I would regret my decision. I told her she was free to pursue her ambitions but not while being with me. She packed her belongings and left. 2 days later on a Saturday she returned. I was reclining on the couch, engaged in some online activity. She addressed me stating, "I'm not here to apologize or beg. I've come to collect my remaining possessions." I remained silent. She gathered her belongings and drove away, her actions showing a complete lack of remorse for what had occurred, prioritizing her affairs over our relationship. I've been in discussions with my attorney to initiate the divorce process. I hope it proceeds smoothly without unnecessary complications. Since we don't have significant assets to dispute, it should be a relatively straightforward process, but we'll see. I'll provide updates once it's all concluded. Now, I'd like to offer a brief update regarding my divorce. There haven't been many noteworthy developments aside from the divorce proceedings, so this will be a concise update. Many people had commented that Emily's so-called quest to learn personal finance didn't seem legitimate. It appeared more like a scam than a genuine investment. Well, I may not be well versed in finance, but one thing is clear. When someone promises quick and substantial returns, it's often a sign of something amiss. Earning money genuinely is a challenging endeavor that doesn't yield instant results. Nonetheless, I've put that chapter behind me. My divorce was finalized last week, and it went relatively smoothly. As I mentioned earlier, there were no significant assets over which we needed to dispute. The house we lived in was a rented condo. In terms of alimony, our incomes were quite similar. Moreover, since she was the one who cheated, I wasn't obligated to pay any alimony. We closed the joint account and divided the money between us. Given that we don't have any children, there was no need for child support. I'm relieved we didn't have children. It would have complicated the situation significantly. I now understand why many Americans hesitate to have children due to the uncertainty it can bring. Nevertheless, it's not as straightforward as it may seem. I'm still struggling to move on from her infidelity. Emily's been telling everyone that I'll come crawling back to her, seeking reconciliation when she becomes wealthy after mastering personal finance strategies. To that, I simply say good luck. She's been spreading the word that our divorce resulted from my insecurity about her progress, painting me as controlling and jealous, among other things. I endured those comments with a smile as much as I could, and then I showed everyone the video I had recorded of her being affectionate with Lucas. Her face turned red after that, and common friends quickly reconsidered their loyalties. The last I heard, she was residing with her mother during the divorce proceedings. She showed no remorse for the damage she's caused. I'm uncertain whether she's genuinely studying personal finance and investing, or if it was merely an excuse to engage in an affair with Lucas. If she succeeds in getting her finances in order, good for her. I have no interest in wealth obtained through infidelity. By the way, I've recently started watching numerous videos on investing. While I might be jumping to conclusions, I think there are plenty of free online resources that provide sufficient information for beginners. I strongly doubt that having a mentor is necessary for this. Right now, I'm striving to distance myself from conversations involving her. They were taking a toll on my mental well-being. I've reignited my hobby of painting to keep myself occupied. I've also joined a fitness club to shed some extra pounds, focusing on healthy eating and reducing my alcohol intake. I had been drinking excessively during the pre-divorce period and gained a significant amount of weight. Hello everyone. I have an intriguing update to share. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude for all the support and the valuable links you provided about investment knowledge. It was incredibly helpful. As many of you pointed out, it wasn't a finance class, it was indeed a scam. The highlight of this update is that Emily fell victim to a scam. Remember the finance influencer who was conducting those seminars? Turns out he was a fraudster. He swindled people out of their hard-earned money by promising them substantial returns. Emily had also invested around 30% of her income in that scheme with hopes of substantial gains. Not only that, I heard she even sold some of her valuable assets like her family heirloom diamond ring and her platinum necklace to go all in on this investment endeavor. It appears that everything was nothing but a deception. The influencer is now on the lam, while his associates, including Lucas, have been apprehended, and an investigation is underway. Once this news surfaced, Emily became the target of ridicule from all the people she had been bragging to about her impending wealth. She had been flaunting her newfound knowledge to everyone and belittling those with limited investment expertise. In the aftermath of this revelation, all the individuals whom Emily had mocked are now turning the tables on her and poking fun at her. It's only natural. One of our mutual friends informed me that she has blocked most of the people who were making fun of her. She also deactivated her social media accounts because people were tagging her in posts related to that finance influencer. She had been endorsing him, so it's no surprise that people are doing this to her. It's a lesson in not counting your chickens before they hatch, which is precisely what she had been doing all this time. As for me, I've made significant progress. I've shed those extra pounds and am currently focused on muscle training and enjoying it. As I mentioned earlier, I've rekindled my passion for painting, and it's been a very fulfilling experience. I haven't rushed into dating just yet. It's not about getting over the past. I'm simply not ready for it. Things took a highly dramatic turn last month, only a week after my previous update. I had an unexpected visitor. It was Emily, and she appeared utterly despondent. She explained that she had fallen victim to a scam, and that Lucas and his fraudulent influencer boss had defrauded hundreds of people and absconded to a different country with their money. I asked her about Lucas's supposed arrest based on the last update. She informed me that no, Lucas and a few other so-called mentors were close associates of the influencer, and they managed to escape at the right moment. The remaining team members were apprehended in the absence of the main culprits. I inquired whether she'd come to me because Lucas had fled. She insisted it wasn't the reason. She claimed she still loved me and wanted to sit and talk. I reminded her that we were already divorced, rendering any conversation pointless. Her response was, "I've already been punished by karma. I've lost a significant amount of money in all respect. People are ridiculing me, making fun of me. You emerged victorious from the situation. What more could you want?" What more could I want? I wanted peace. I had wanted her out of my life, and in that moment I wanted her out of my house. That was what I wanted. She continued by saying, "Now that you know there was nothing between me and Lucas, we can get back together. If there were anything, he would have taken me with him, right?" I replied with a firm no. I explained that he wouldn't have taken her because he had numerous women like her, sleeping with him to learn some dubious money-making tricks. After all, he couldn't take all his promiscuous partners with him, could he? She implored me to consider reconciliation, asserting that she had not been emotionally involved with Lucas. She admitted to being drawn to the idea of getting rich quickly. I made it clear that reconciliation was not an option. I had moved on considerably by that point, so her pleas had no impact on me. If she had begged for forgiveness when her affair was exposed, I might have contemplated it. I can't be sure. However, after witnessing her true character, I'm no fool to trust her again. She returned to me only after losing everything. During the divorce proceedings, she had shown no remorse, and now she came to me. Unbelievable. I informed her that I had to leave for my fitness class, and she needed to go. She commented that I looked much younger and fitter, and inquired if I was dating someone. I told her it was none of her business. She began crying, accusing me of being rude. I retorted that she should be grateful for my civility, and for hearing her out after what she had done to me. I used to love her deeply, but I had moved beyond that emotion. She left when I became cold towards her pleas. A few days later, her mother called me and requested a meeting. I asked for the reason, and she said it was something urgent and important, inappropriate for a phone conversation. I met her the next day for coffee. She apologized on behalf of Emily. I embraced her and assured her that if it wasn't her fault, she didn't need to apologize. She'd always been kind to me, in contrast to Emily. She refrained from speaking ill of me during the divorce proceedings. She asked if I would consider reconciling with Emily because she deeply regretted her actions. She was constantly crying and falling into depression. She feared that Emily might end herself due to her loss of savings, part of her monthly salary, and some valuable jewelry pieces. As mentioned in previous updates, I was unaware that Emily had lost her savings as well. Emily was always a saver, and I was certain she had at least $100,000 saved up. Losing such a substantial amount of money could lead anyone to mental distress. I inquired how our reconciliation would help her cope with the depression resulting from the financial loss. She argued that Emily genuinely loved me, and even in her dire circumstances, she could at least find happiness in having me in her life. I'll admit I felt some sympathy for Emily. I briefly wavered towards considering reconciliation, but it was short-lived. I quickly reverted to my decision of not taking her back. I informed her that I couldn't do it. I no longer loved her. It led to another round of crying and pleading to help her daughter overcome her depression. I remained resolute in my decision and advised her to take Emily to therapy. She required counseling more than a husband. My ex-mother-in-law was disappointed that I declined her request but understood my perspective. Another factor that could have further upset Emily was my investment journey. I started following genuine finance YouTubers who significantly aided my comprehension of personal finance and investing at macroeconomic and fundamental levels. This knowledge played a crucial role in building my investment portfolio. Surprisingly, I'm already sitting on a substantial profit. Currently, I ventured into the stock and bond market. Crypto trading still remains beyond my grasp, and I prefer not to explore unfamiliar territory. I'm not rushing things. I'm taking it one step at a time. Learning about the stock market has reaffirmed my belief that making money is not something that happens overnight. It requires patience as well as courage. I'm hoping to emerge from this experience stronger. As for dating, I believe I'm still not ready for it. Alright, that was a fun story. Now let's move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned and let's dive in. Story 2. Family Betrayal. I'm a 40-year-old woman and my parents, my father Michael 63, and my mother Linda 60, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings. A 42-year-old sister Sarah, a 38-year-old sister Laura, a 34-year-old sister Rachel, and 3 brothers aged 20, 20 and 18, Matt, Mark and Luke. I've been with my husband David 39 since we were 15. I became pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter Emma and we got married at 18 shortly after. After our wedding, my dad's father passed away and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and informed us that it would be my inheritance. David and I had no issues with this arrangement, and we went on to have 3 more children, 2 boys, Alex, 20, and Jake, 14, a girl, Lily, 5. And I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy due in April. I believed I had a strong marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week, went on regular date nights, exchanged gifts, and rarely had fights. However, my world came crashing down on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a girls' trip with some friends. I walked into my bedroom and found my mother having intercourse with my husband. My mother yelled at me to leave their bedroom, which shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my eldest daughter was also home, getting ready for a party in her bedroom across the house. She ran out and saw my nearly naked mother running out of our house into hers, slamming the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I had spoken with my husband. I confronted David, and he confessed that my mother had seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They had been having unprotected sex at least once a month for longer than we were married. I calculated the timeline and was horrified, as it meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be fathered by my husband. I immediately called my dad and asked him to come to my house without my mom. David confessed in front of my dad, who was devastated since he and my mom were high school sweethearts. My mother's screams were audible from her house as she was confronted. I then confided in my older sister, and we decided to host a party for the whole extended family, inviting my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22-year-old daughter take all the kids to the basement to watch a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings. I proceeded to explain to them exactly what had been happening. The majority of my family is supportive of me, except for my 3 youngest siblings, my 38-year-old sister, and my ex's entire family. They all label me as an a-hole for making this matter public. News spread, and my mom's best friend, who holds a leadership position in my childhood church, called me to confirm the story. Consequently, my mom was removed from her role as the children's pastor at the church, and she claims I've essentially destroyed her reputation and life. My dad has asked her to leave, and she is currently residing with my 38-year-old sister. Furthermore, my dad has insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he will consider any reconciliation with my mother. It turns out that the twins are indeed my husband's biological children. In response, I've kicked my husband out, and he is now living with his parents. My father and I are in discussions about my potential move into his much larger house while he sells my grandfather's house and provides me with the money to purchase a new house elsewhere to create a fresh start without the lingering memories. My husband is outraged and furious because I've exposed that he's actually going to be a father of 7 children instead of 5, and I will be entitled to half of his business. My husband started his HVAC company a few years ago, and for the first 5 years I played a significant role in establishing it, managing the office entirely, and temporarily stepping back from my teaching career to help him get it off the ground. In our state, all marital assets, including businesses, are divided equally. Since the house was still under my father's name, my husband will receive no money from its sale, and neither will my mother, as inherited assets are not subject to division in divorce. My mother is also unlikely to receive any alimony as our state doesn't follow a no-fault divorce system. Over a month has passed, and I'm still deeply bitter and angry with my mother, particularly because of her hypocrisy in calling me names and shaming my family when she's engaged in far worse behavior. I also have strong feelings of resentment toward my ex, as he was intimately involved with both my mother and me, sometimes coming to our bed minutes later. He impregnated my mother less than a week after I became pregnant. And while I initially thought it was cute and fun to share a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. This situation has shattered my trust in men and their ability to remain faithful. I've already secured a proficient lawyer from the firm that handled our financial matters, with support from my dad in covering the costs. 2 of my twin brothers, 1 of my sisters, and my entire ex's family have cut off contact with me and my minor children. Consequently, my children have essentially lost all of their grandparents except for my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, and my husband's 3 brothers due to this unfortunate situation. Due to these circumstances, I've developed ulcers and digestive problems, so I'm planning to see a doctor soon. Additionally, I've been attending therapy sessions since the first week of January. I've also extended the offer of family therapy to my 2 adult children, but they are currently undergoing individual therapy. My 14-year-old daughter is aware of our divorce and the reasons behind it. She's understandably angry with her dad, which makes it difficult for me to send her to his house on weekends. While I believe she's old enough to have a say in this matter, I don't want to harm her relationship with her father. I've told all my children that it's okay to love their dad, even if he hurt me. However, my 2 eldest children have completely cut off contact with him. I won't reveal the true reasons for the divorce to my younger 2 children until they reach their teenage years, and everyone has agreed not to disclose anything until they are old enough to comprehend. Regarding how I remained oblivious to the ongoing affair, my husband admitted to me that they had sex at my mom's church office, in their cars at a motel, and when we established the business, they began regularly doing it in his office. Once I resumed my teaching career, they also did it in our homes when my father was away on business trips or when I was out of town. The most distressing part for me is the sheer coincidence of coming home a day early from a trip due to pregnancy discomfort, and this is how I discovered the affair. Knowing that they would have continued this affair if I hadn't caught them is what continues to upset me. I find it hard to get past the fact that my children's grandmother and father showed so little concern for the impact on our families. What's particularly challenging for me is the realization that my own mother could betray me and continue this behavior for years without caring about the consequences when it all unraveled in her face. Edit. To make matters worse, my husband confirmed during one of our mediated conversations that the affair began when I apparently upset him. Instead of talking to me, he vented to my mom when they were alone. She consoled him, and they became intimate. He enjoyed it and pursued her from that point on. He even mentioned he would have divorced me but knew he'd lose her, and that she was better in bed than me, so he stuck with me. He told me that I was just a temporary placeholder. Among all the betrayals and low blows, this statement is what keeps me awake at night. Update. I made extensive efforts to pursue a mediated divorce, but my ex informed me through his legal representatives yesterday that he doubts the paternity of the baby I'm currently carrying. He insists on a DNA test as soon as the baby is born because he refuses to support a child he believes is not his own. Furthermore, he alleges that I had multiple affairs throughout our marriage and that I was aware of his ongoing affair, which he claims I used as an excuse to engage in my own infidelity. None of these allegations are true, but part of me almost wishes they were, as it would simplify the divorce process. My attorney essentially cautioned me to prepare for a protracted, contentious divorce characterized by various ruthless tactics on my ex's part, making an already difficult situation even more painful. I will address some of the questions raised here and in the previous post. My twin brothers strongly resemble my maternal side of the family, particularly my uncle and grandfather. They do not bear a strong resemblance to my dad, but interestingly, they don't resemble my husband much either. On the other hand, my son clearly takes after my soon-to-be ex and is the only child who visibly appears to be his, although my 14-year-old daughter has inherited his nose and jaw shape. While I was undoubtedly furious on the day everything unraveled, my father talked me down from my initial rage and reminded me to consider the well-being of my baby and my other children before taking any actions that could deprive them of both their parents. It was this persistent attempts to guilt-trip me into communicating with my mother. Unfortunately, my grandma is facing her own issues, showing early signs of dementia and senility. While I can tolerate her labeling my mother in derogatory terms, some of her other actions and comments have only added unnecessary stress to my life. My 34-year-old and 42-year-old sisters were the ones who assisted me with the labor and delivery plan. My ex was aware of the plans, but he also knew that I preferred him not to be at the hospital until after I had given birth and was in a better state for him to meet his son. He agreed to this. On the day I went into labor, my 34-year-old sister took my 14-year-old and 5-year-old children to her place, while my 42-year-old sister stayed with me in the delivery room. Surprisingly, my 14-year-old child needed something from their school and reached out to my ex to pick it up because he was still on the official pickup list, although not anymore. He was supposed to drop it off at my sister's house. My mother accompanied him when he took the call, however. He declined to have her come along as I preferred my children not to be around her. Apparently, she followed him in her car to the store and then my sister's house, where she threw a temper tantrum on the front lawn. My ex decided to break up with her, stating that she brought too much drama and it wasn't worth it anymore. She flew into a rage, physically attacked him, and began vandalizing things in my sister's yard. The police were called, and my mother was arrested for domestic violence. Consequently, my ex, my sister, and I all obtained orders of protection against her. Due to her instability and the situation, my ex relocated to an apartment near his HVAC company. My 14-year-old daughter has chosen not to forgive him and expressed that she doesn't want to be around him at the moment. Thus, only the 5-year-old visits my ex. He comes to my dad's house and spends time with her one weeknight and one weekend evening, while I take my other kids and twin brothers out for dinner. We've established contact through a custody app and plan to revisit the custody arrangements in June. I intend to pursue full legal and physical custody until my ex can demonstrate that he has undergone the necessary therapy and treatment. I still harbor strong negative feelings toward my ex for what he put me through from the time I was 15 until recently. However, my disdain for my mother is even more profound for the harm she inflicted on all of us. Despite my emotions, I do have some sympathy for my ex, and I genuinely want him to recover for the sake of my younger children. Regarding the other divorce proceedings, my ex has agreed to a mediated, uncontested divorce, and I'll be receiving half of everything, including the business. I've decided to sell my shares to one of my ex's employees who wishes to become a partner. My ex is content with this arrangement, and I'm eager to sever all ties with him. My dad successfully sold my old house without even listing it on the market, because our realtor knew a family looking for a home. Meanwhile, I've started searching for houses about 45 minutes away from my dad's location. As for my mother, she has gone into hiding after the twins made it clear that they would never live with her and wanted nothing to do with her, particularly after her arrest. She began guilt-tripping and blaming them. She is currently contesting the divorce from my dad and only communicating with him through her attorney. Concerning my 38-year-old sister, she had a reality check during this whole ordeal when my mother called her and scolded her for not helping her get out of jail during a 45-minute conversation. Apparently, my sister has been experiencing fertility problems, which I was unaware of because we don't communicate, leading to stress, anxiety, and a decline in her self-esteem. This vulnerability made her susceptible to manipulation by our mother, who boosted her self-esteem with positive attention. However, when my sister declined to bail her out due to saving money for another round of IVF with her partner, she recognized the manipulation and reached out to me. We have slowly started talking again, and she supports me in the situation. Additionally, she has resumed communication with my dad, which I'm glad about for his sake, as it allows them to reconnect. Welcoming my son, by the way, we conducted the DNA test a few weeks before his birth, confirming that he is indeed my ex's child, has brought immense joy and delight into my life. With my other kids and the support of my dad and siblings, I've been able to navigate through this challenging time, and I believe they will continue to help me. I hold hope that at some point, I can address my ex without the burden of anger and bitterness, considering the trauma he endured due to my mother's actions. I believe I'll be fine. As I mentioned before, this will be my final update on this matter, so I want to express my gratitude for all the kindness, love, and support.